The killer who hunted like a wolf in the shadows. In the misty suburbs of Seattle during the 1980s, women began disappearing, one by one, vanishing into the silence of night. No witnesses, no sounds, no signs of struggle, just sudden absence. Then the river gave up its secrets. Bodies, many of them, were found along the banks of the Green River, discarded like trash, stripped of identity, of dignity. As fear thickened in the air, police realized they weren't dealing with a random criminal. This was a hunter, precise, patient, cold. He didn't just kill, he hunted. And his tactics made him one of the most terrifying serial killers in American history. This is the story of Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, and how he stalked, deceived, and destroyed with chilling precision. A normal face with a monstrous secret. Gary Ridgway looked like someone you'd never notice. A quiet man with a blue-collar job, mild manners, and an ordinary house in a Seattle suburb. He worked as a truck painter and went to church. Married multiple times, he seemed almost boring in his normalcy. But beneath that calm exterior lay a disturbed soul. He had a dark obsession with sex and death. He frequented sex workers, not just for pleasure, but for control. His fantasy life was grotesque, and it would soon become reality. His ability to blend in was his greatest weapon. He wore a mask of normalcy while planning murders. Every neighbor thought he was harmless. They were wrong. The first kill, when the urge turned deadly. In July 1982, Ridgway committed his first known murder. His victim was Wendy Caulfield, a 16-year-old runaway. She was strangled and dumped into the Green River. Police found her body floating in the water, naked, lifeless, and far from home. But it wasn't an isolated tragedy. Within weeks, more bodies surfaced. Deborah Bonner, Marcia Chapman, Cynthia Hines. All young women, all found in or near the river, all victims of strangulation. The pattern was emerging, but it was only the beginning. Ridgway had discovered his method, and now he was perfecting it. The perfect victims, how he chose his prey. Ridgway didn't pick victims at random. He specifically targeted vulnerable women, mainly sex workers and runaways. Women no one would report missing right away. Women the system already ignored. He used this to his advantage. He'd approach them in his pickup truck, offer money, and lure them in. He made them feel safe. Sometimes, he showed photos of his son to gain their trust. That was his mask, his bait. And once he had them isolated, the predator came out. Ridgway knew how to vanish his crimes, how to exploit the invisibility of his victims. He counted on society not caring. And too often, he was right. The killing grounds, the forests and rivers of Seattle. The Pacific Northwest, with its vast mist-covered woods and winding rivers, became his playground. He knew the terrain intimately, back roads, hidden trails, deserted areas no one dared visit at night. He used them like a wolf would use the forest. After murdering his victims, he would dump their bodies in clusters, often returning to the sites to relive the act. He'd move corpses, reposition them, sometimes even engage in necrophilia. His twisted rituals added layers to his crimes. The woods held his secrets for months, sometimes years. And while police scoured the area, he watched quietly, knowing how well the trees hid the dead. A phantom in the night, evading capture. Despite the rising body count, Ridgway stayed ahead of the police for 2 decades. His methods evolved. He stopped using the same dumping sites. He sometimes disposed of bodies in multiple counties to confuse investigators. And he was clever with evidence. He didn't leave fingerprints. He burned clothes. He avoided keeping souvenirs. Unlike other killers who craved attention, Ridgway was methodical and cautious. He adapted quickly. Even when the Green River Task Force was formed, with experienced detectives and FBI agents, Ridgway remained a ghost, close enough to touch, but impossible to hold. He even passed a polygraph test in 1984. That's how convincing his lies were. The psychological mask, a predator's double life. One of Ridgway's most disturbing tactics was how perfectly he lived a double life. He was married during many of his killings, often going home to dinner after dumping a body. His wife had no idea. He even confessed later that murdering women gave him a sense of power. By day, he painted trucks, mowed lawns, smiled at neighbors. By night, he hunted. There was no remorse, no hesitation, just an insatiable desire to kill again and again. This duality made him deadly. He wasn't the crazed, blood-stained killer you see in movies. He was worse. He was patient. He was calculated. And he was invisible. The DNA trap, how science finally caught him. For years, the Green River murders went unsolved. The case grew cold, and leads dried up. But in the late 1990s, a breakthrough happened. New DNA technology allowed investigators to revisit old evidence. And they had a suspect. Gary Ridgway had been questioned before. Swabs were taken in 1987. But the technology didn't exist to analyze them until now. In 2001, DNA from the crime scenes matched Ridgway. It was a perfect hit. The man who had outsmarted the police for 2 decades was finally caught, not by mistake, but by science. When the cuffs closed around his wrists, so did the lid on one of the darkest chapters in criminal history. The chilling confession, "I killed so many." Ridgway confessed to 71 murders, though he was officially convicted of 49. During interviews, his tone was emotionless, flat, even mechanical. He described murders the way someone might describe grocery shopping. "I killed so many women I lost count," he said. He spoke about strangling them while they begged for their lives, about returning to the bodies, about how easy it became. What made his confession more disturbing was the lack of remorse. There were no tears, no guilt, just cold facts and dead eyes. He wasn't haunted by what he did, only annoyed that he didn't kill more. The victims forgotten, the girls with no names. While Ridgway's name lives on in infamy, it's the victims we should remember. Most were teenagers or young women, battling poverty, addiction, or homelessness. Some were never even identified, known only by a number or as Jane Doe. They had families, dreams, lives. Many of their remains were never recovered. Ridgway led investigators to several sites after his confession, but some graves remain hidden. His actions left scars across generations, families shattered, sisters haunted, mothers destroyed. These women weren't statistics, they were human. Ridgway erased them from the world, but he cannot erase their stories. A legacy of fear, the killer who changed a city. The Green River Killer didn't just murder women, he terrified a city. For years, Seattle lived in dread. Women stopped walking alone. Families locked doors tighter. Police faced mounting pressure and painful dead ends. But Ridgway's tactics also changed the way law enforcement operated. The case led to better technology, improved tracking of missing persons, and more attention to sex worker safety. It forced police to reevaluate how they treated vulnerable communities. His legacy is one of horror, but also of hard-learned lessons. He wanted to be forgotten, but the world refuses to let that happen. The monster behind the smile. Gary Ridgway wasn't a mastermind. He was terrifying because he was ordinary, a quiet man hiding monstrous urges. He walked among us unnoticed, while leaving behind a trail of victims. His true weapon? The illusion of trust. Beneath that calm smile, a predator waited, always watching, always hunting. Thanks for watching. If you found this story gripping, like, share, and subscribe for more true crime breakdowns.